And welcome back once again. And now we have arrived at Book 9 of the Odyssey, the chapter concerning the Cyclops. Odysseus tells us in this of his arriving in the land of the one-eyed giants, known as the Cyclopses. And he and his men are imprisoned in the cave of the giant Polyphemus, who plans to eat them. Odysseus and his men, needless to say, flee the cave, and as they board their ship, Odysseus flings a taunt back to the Cyclops, in response to which the giant hurls rocks at their ship and misses them. So in this chapter of Ulysses, we meet the myopic citizen who shows considerable hostility to Bloom's Jewishness and to all things British. The taunt that's hurled by the departing Odysseus in the Odyssey, in Homer's Odyssey, is represented by the apotheosis of Bloom defending his Jewishness at the episode's end, by which time Bloom has mounted a waiting jaunting car or carriage. The citizen, the myopic citizen, follows him and flings a biscuit box at Bloom as the jaunting car departs. In this sequence, there are certain descriptive passages which are written in an infinitely more classic tone than the running dialogue. And so we come to Cyclops, which will be read for you by me. Pardon the hat. So in comes Martin, asking where was Bloom. Where is he? Says Linehan. Defrauding widows and orphans. Is that a fact? Says John Wise. Well, what I was telling the citizen about Bloom and the Sinn Féin. That's so, says Martin, or so they allege. Who made those allegations? Asked Self. I, said Joe. I am the alligator. And after all, says John Wise, why can't a Jew love his country like the next fella? Why not, says JJ, when he's quite sure which country it is. Is he a Jew or a Gentile or a Holy Roman or a swaddler or what the hell is he? Says Ned. Or who is he? No offense, Crofton. Who is Julius? Says JJ. We don't want him, says Crofter, the Orangeman, or Presbyterian. He's a perverted Jew, says Martin, from a place in Hungary that it was he that drew up all the plans according to the Hungarian system. We know that at the castle. Isn't he a cousin of Bloom the dentist, says Jack Power. Not at all, says Martin. Only namesakes. His name was Virag, the father's name that poisoned himself. He changed it by deed poll. The father did. That's the new Messiah for Ireland, says the citizen. Island of saints and sages. Well, they're still waiting for their Redeemer, says Martin. For that matter, so are we. Yes, says JJ. And every male that's born, they think it might be their Messiah. And every Jew is in a tall state of excitement, I believe, till he knows if he's a father or a mother. Expecting every moment will be his next, says Lennon. Oh, begod, says Ned. You should have seen Bloom before that son of his that died was born. I met him once, a day in the South City markets, buying a tin of Neve's food 6 weeks before the wife was delivered. In Ventre St. Mary, says JJ. Do you call that a man? Says the citizen. I wonder, did he ever put it out of sight, says Joe. Well, there were 2 children born anyhow, says Jack Power. And who does he suspect, says the citizen. Gob, has many a true word spoken in jest. One of these mixed middlings he is, lying up in the hotel, Pisser was telling me, once a month with a headache like a totty with her courses. Do you know what I'm telling you? It'd be an act of God to take hold of that fellow, a fellow the like of that, and throw him in the bloody sea. Justifiable homicide, so it would. And then sloping off with his 5 quid without putting up a pint of stuff like a man. Give us your blessing, not as much as would blind your eye. Charity to the neighbour, says Martin. But where is he? We can't wait. Wolf in sheep's clothing, says the citizen. That's what he is. Virag from Hungary. Ahasuerus, I call him. Cursed by God. Have you time for a brief libation, Martin, says Ned. Only one, says Martin. We must be quick. JJ and S. You, Jack, Crofton, 3 half-ones, Terry. St. Patrick would want to land again in Ballykinlar and converters, says the citizen, after allowing things like that to contaminate our shores. Well, says Martin, rapping his glass, God bless all here is my prayer. Amen, says the citizen. I'm sure he will, says Joe. And the sound of the sacring bell, headed by a crucifer with acolytes, thuriphers, boat-bearers, readers, ostiari, deacons, and subdeacons, the blessed company drew nigh of mitred abbots and priors and guardians and monks and friars, the monks of Benedict of Spoleto, Carthusians and Camaldolesi, Cistercians and Olivetians, Oratorians and Vallambrosians, and the friars of Augustine, Brigidines, Premonstratensians, Servi, Trinitarians, and the children of Peter Nolasco. And therewithal from Carmel Mount, the children of Elijah prophet, led by Albert Bishop and Teresa of Alpha, Chalcid and others, and friars brown and grey, sons of Poor Francis, Capuchins, Cordelias, Minimes, and Observants, and the daughters of Clara, and the sons of Dominic, the friar preachers, and the sons of Vincent, and the monks of St. Wulstan, and Ignatius his children, and the confraternity of the Christian brothers, led by Reverend Brother Edmund Ignatius Rice. And after came all saints and martyrs, virgins and confessors, St. Cyr and St. Isidora Arator, and St. James the Less, and St. Pocassus of Sinope, and St. Julian Hospitator, and St. Felix of Chantalice, and St. Simon Stylites, and St. Stephen Protomartyr, and St. John of God, and St. Ferrell, and St. Lugade, and St. Theodotus, and St. Volmar, and St. Richard, and St. Vincent de Paul, and St. Martin of Todi, and St. Martin of Tours, and St. Alfred, and St. Joseph, and St. Denis, and St. Cornelius, and St. Leopard, and St. Bernard, and St. Terence, and St. Edward, and Sir Owen Caliculus, and St. Anonymous, and St. Eponymous, and St. Pseudonymous, and St. Homonymus, and St. Paronymus, and St. Synonymous, and St. Lawrence O'Toole, and St. James of Dingle, and Compostela, and St. Columcille, St. Columba, and St. Celestine, and St. Coleman, and St. Kevin, and St. Brendan, and St. Frigidian, and St. Senan, and St. Facna, and St. Columbanus, and St. Gall, and St. Fursey, and St. Finton, and St. Ficra, and St. John Nepomuk, and St. Thomas Aquinas, and St. Ives of Brittany, and St. Micah, and St. Herman Joseph, and the three patrons of holy youth, St. Aloysius Gonzaga, St. Stanislas Kostka, and St. John Birchmans, and the Saints Gervasius, Servasius, and Bonifacius, and St. Bride, and St. Kieran, and St. Canis of Kilkenny, and St. Jareth of Tuam, and St. Finbar, and St. Papin of Ballymun, and Brother Aloysius Pacificus, and Brother Louis Bellicosus, and the Saints Rose of Lima and Viterbo, and St. Martha of Bethany, and St. Mary of Egypt, and St. Lucy, and St. Bridget, and St. Attractor, and St. Dimpna, and St. Ita, and St. Marian Calpensis, and Blessed Sister Teresa of the Child Jesus, and Sister Barbara, and Sister Scholastica, and Sister Ursula, with 7,000 virgins. And all came, with nimbi and aureoles and gloriae, bearing palms and harps and swords and olive crowns, in robes whereon were woven the blessed symbols of their efficacies, in corns, arrows, loaves, cruises, fetters, axes, trees, bridges, babes in a bathtub, shells, wallets, shears, keys, dragons, lilies, buckshot, beards, hogs, lamps, bellows, beehives, soup ladies, stars, snakes, anvils, boxes of Vaseline, bells, crutches, forceps, stags, horns, watertight boots, hawks, millstones, eyes on a dish, wax candles, aspergills, unicorns. And as they wended their way by Nelson's Pier, Henry Street, Mary Street, Capel Street, Little Britain Street, chanting the Indroit in Epiphiana Domini, which beginneth Surge Illuminare, and after most sweetly the gradual Omnes, which saith De Saba Venient, they did diverse wonders, such as casting out devils, raising the dead to life, multiplying fishes, healing the halt and the blind, discovering various articles which seems to have been mislaid, interpreting and fulfilling the scriptures, blessing and prophesying. At last, beneath a canopy of cloth of gold, came the Reverend Father O'Flynn, attended by Malachi and Patrick. And when the good fathers had reached the appointed place, the house of Bernard Kiernan and Company, Limited, 8, 9, and 10 Little Britain Street, wholesale grocers, wine and brandy shippers, licensed for the sale of beer, wine, and spirits for consumption on the premises. The celebrant blessed the house and censed the mullioned windows and the groins and the vaults and the arrises and the capitals and the pediments and the cornices and the engrailed arches and the spires and the cupolas, and sprinkled the lintels thereof with blessed water, and prayed that God might bless that house as he had blessed the house of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and make the angels of his light to inhabit therein. And entering, he blessed the viands and the beverages, and the company of all the blessed answered his prayers. And auditorium nostrum in nomine Domini, que ficet celum et terram, Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo. And so say all of us, said Jack. 1,000 a year, Lambert, says Crofton. Oh, Crawford. Right, says Ned, taking up his John Jameson, and butter for fish. I was just looking around to see who the happy thought would strike, when be damned, but in he comes again, letting on to be in a hell of a hurry. I was just round at the courthouse, says he, looking for you. I hope I'm not... No, says Martin, we're ready. Courthouse, may I, and your pockets hanging down with gold and silver, mean bloody scut. Send us a drink itself, divil a sweet fear. There's a Jew for you. All for number one, cute as a shithouse rat, 100 to 5. Don't tell anyone, says the citizen. I beg your pardon, says he. Come on, boys, says Martin, sensing it was looking blue. Come along now. Don't tell anyone, says the citizen, letting a ball out of him. It's a secret. And the bloody dog woke up and let a growl. By all, says Martin. And he got them out as quick as he could, Jack Power and Crofton, or whatever you call him, and him in the middle, and them letting on to be all at sea, and up with them onto a bloody jaunting car. Off with you, says Martin to the Jarvey. The milk-white dolphin tossed his mane, and rising in the golden poop, the helmsman spread the bellying sail upon the wind, and stood off forward with all sails set, the spinnaker to larboard. Many a comely nymphs drew nigh to starboard and to larboard side, and clinging to the sides of the noble bark, they linked their shining forms, as doth the culling wheelwright, when he fashions about the heart of his wheel the equidistant rays, whereon each one is sister to another, and binds them all with an outer ring, and giveth speed to the feet of men, whenas they ride to a hosting, or contend for the smile of ladies fair. Even so, they come and set them, those willing nymphs, the undying sisters, and they laughed, and sporting in a circle of their foam, and the bark clave the waves. But begob, I was just lowering the heel of a pint when I saw the citizen get up to waddle to the door, puffing and blowing with the dropsy, and he cursing the curse of Cromwell on him, bell, book, and candle in Irish, spitting and spatting out of him, and Joe and little Alf round him, like a leprechaun trying to peacify him. Let me alone, says he, and begob, he got as far as the door, and they holding him, and he bawls out after him, 3 cheers for Israel. Now sit down on the parliamentary side of your arse before, for Christ's sake, and don't be making a public exhibition of yourself. Jesus, there's always some bloody clown or other kicking up a bloody murder about bloody nothing. God, it'd turn the porter sour in your guts, so it would. All the ragamuffins and the sluts of the nation round the door, and Martin telling the Jarvey to drive ahead, and the citizen bawling, and Alf and Joe at him to wish, and he up on his high horse about the Jews, and the loafers calling out for a speech, and Jack Power trying to get him to sit down on the car and hold his bloody jaw, and a loafer with a patch over his eye starts singing, if the man And then Slut shouts out of her, "Hey, mister, your fly is open, mister." And says he, "Mendelssohn was a Jew, and Karl Marx, and Mercadante, and Spinoza, and the Savior was a Jew, and his father was a Jew, your God." "He had no father," says Martin. "That'll do now, drive ahead." "Who's God?" says the citizen. "Well, his uncle was a Jew," says he. "Your God was a Jew, Christ was a Jew, like me." God, the citizen made a plunge back into the shop. "By Jesus," he says, "I'll brain him bloody for using the holy name. By Jesus, I'll crucify him, so I will. Give us that biscuit box there." "Stop, stop," says Joe. God, the devil wouldn't stop him till he got hold of the bloody tin anyhow, and out with him, and little Alf hanging onto his elbow, and he shouting like a stock pig, as good as any bloody play in the Queen's Royal Theatre. "Where is he till I murder him?" And Ned and JJ paralysed with the laughing. "Bloody wars," says I. "I'll begin for the last gospel." But as luck would have it, the Jarvey got the nag's head round the other way, and up with them. "Hold on, citizen," says Joe. "Stop." Because he drew his hand and made a swipe and let fly. Mercy of God, the sun was in his eyes, or he'd have left him for dead. Gobby near sent it into the county Longford. The bloody nag took fright, and the old mongrel after the car like bloody hell, and all the populace shouting and laughing, and the old tin box clattering along the road. The catastrophe was terrific and instantaneous in its effect. The observatory at Dunsink registered in all 11 shocks, all of the 5th grade on Mercalli's scale, and there is no record extant of a similar seismic disturbance in our island since the earthquake of 1534, the year of the rebellion of Silken Thomas. The epicenter appears to have been in that part of the metropolis which constitutes the Inns Quay ward and parish of St. Michan, covering a surface of 41 acres, 2 roods, and 1 square pole or perch. All the lordly residences in the vicinity of the Palace of Justice were demolished, and that noble edifice itself, in which, at the time of the catastrophe, important legal debates were in progress, is literally a mass of ruins beneath which it is to be feared that all the occupants have been buried alive. From the reports of the eyewitnesses, it transpires that the seismic waves were accompanied by a violent atmospheric perturbation of cyclonic character. An article of headgear, since ascertained to belong to the much-respected Clerk of the Crown and Peace, Mr. George Fottrell, and a silk umbrella with gold handle, with the engraved initials, crest, coat of arms, and house number of the erudite and worshipful chairman of the Quarter Sessions, Sir Frederick Faulkner, Recorder of Dublin, have been discovered by search parties in remote parts of the island. Respectively, the former on the 3rd basaltic ridge of the Giant's Causeway, the latter embedded to the extent of 1 foot 3 inches in the sandy beach of Holopen Bay near the old head of Kinsale. Other eyewitnesses depose that they observed an incandescent object of enormous proportions, hurling through the atmosphere at terrifying velocity in a trajectory directed southwest by west. Messages of condolence and sympathy are hourly received from all parts of the different continents, and the Sovereign Pontiff has been graciously pleased to decree that a special Missa Pro Defunctis shall be celebrated simultaneously by the ordinaries of each and every cathedral church in all the episcopal dioceses subject to the spiritual authority of the Holy See, in suffrage of the souls of those faithful departed who have been so unexpectedly called away from our midst. The work of salvage, removal of debris, human remains, etc., has been entrusted to Messrs. Michael Mead and Son of 159 Great Brunswick Street, and Messrs. T. and C. Martin, 77, 78, 79, and 80 North Wall, assisted by men and officers of the Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry, under the general supervision of H.R.H. Rear Admiral, the Right Honourable Sir Hercules Hannibal Habeas Corpus Anderson, KG, KP, KT, PC, KCB, MP, JP, MB, DSO, SOD, MFH, MRIA, BL MuseDoc, PLG, FTCD, FRUI, FRCPI, and FRCSI. You never saw the like of it in your born, Puff. Gob, if he got that lottery ticket on the side of his poll, he'd remember the Gold Cup, he would so, but begob the citizen would have been lagged for assault and battery and Joe for aiding and abetting. The Jarvey saved his life by furious driving, as sure as God made Moses. What? Oh, Jesus, he did. And he led a volley of oaths after him. Did I kill him, says he, or what? And he shouting to the bloody dog, after him, Gary, after him, boy. And the last we saw was the bloody car round in the corner and the old sheep's face on it gesticulating and the bloody mongrel after it with his lugs back for all he was bloody well worth to tear him limb from limb. 100-5, Jesus, he took the value out of it. I promise you. When lo, there came about them a great brightness, and they beheld the chariot wherein he stood ascend to heaven. And they beheld him in the chariot, clothed in the glory of the brightness, having raiment as of the sun, fair as the moon, and terrible, that for awe they durst not look upon him. And there came a voice out of heaven, calling, Elijah, Elijah. And he answered with a main cry, Abba, Adonai. And they beheld him, even him, Ben Bloom Elijah, amid clouds of angels ascend to the glory of the brightness at an angle of 45 degrees over Donoghue's in Little Green Street, like a shot off a shovel. Thank you.